Hello, I'm Casey Aiken, and this is 21 This Week. Coming up next, Montgomery County School Board makes two very controversial decisions. Who is the Republican candidate stepping forward in the U.S. Senate race to replace Barbara Mikulski? Who are the winners and losers from the Republican debate? And what is really happening at the University of Missouri and at other campuses? Stay tuned. Our panel of insiders will give you the story behind the story. We're joined by education activist Cynthia Rubenstein, former Republican candidate for delegate Rose Lee, former membership director of the Maryland Republican Party, Phil Bell, and political strategist Susan Heltemes. Stay tuned for these stories and more on the next 21 This Week. The Montgomery County Board of Education approved two controversial decisions this past week, one affecting student assessments and the other the expansion of religious holidays recognized by the Montgomery County Public School System. Embarrassed by reports that the majority of MCPS students were failing in classes like algebra and English, and despite the fact that an overwhelming majority, nearly 70% of high school teachers who were participating in a survey said they opposed the school system's plan to drop final examinations, the school board voted for it anyway, unanimously, to drop final exams. Rose, why did the school board make this drastic change?
Well, I think it was ostensibly because they wanted to increase instructional time for the kids, but it's really hard not to see that there's been this record of failing algebra exams and final exams and other subject matters for the last 5 years or so. And I think it looks like very much that they don't want to continue to address that issue. And I think it's interesting if you look at the fact that a lot of kids were failing parallel parking, so they got rid of the parallel parking component test. And now kids are failing finals, so they're just going to get rid of the finals. I think it's really troubling that this looks like there's a pattern in Montgomery County where anytime there's a little bit of hardship, we get rid of the indicator that tells us there's a hardship instead of fixing the problem.
Parallel parking is statewide, though,
but
not just here.
Rose, you have a daughter in college and went through the Montgomery County school system. You still have one in high school at Walter Johnson. So is the school system failing our students? That's the real issue.
I think that there is definitely a sense that there's a decline in the teaching, and I think if it's really about increasing instructional time, they really should add more days of school and lower the class size. The class sizes at even the high school my kid goes to is 38 people in each class, which is not, experts say, you need smaller class sizes to really improve learning.
So Cynthia, is the school system just covering itself here, or are they really avoiding making harder decisions?
Well, it's
You
about
deal with this every day.
It's as clear as mud. Principals and MCPS supported abolishing the final exams and going towards unit assessments to free up instructional time and going towards unit assessments, so that there are periodic examinations instead of a cumulative exam at the end of the year. Teachers wanted to keep the cumulative exam. Principals wanted to do the unit assessments. So you have principals pitted against the teachers, and the school board went with principals and MCPS.
But are the students getting a good education? That's the question.
Okay, if you talk to students about final exams, some of them didn't take them seriously because it was 25% of their grade, and didn't study for them and didn't take them seriously. And some students taking a final exam, maybe they didn't get some concepts along the way, especially in algebra. And so they take the final exam and then it becomes clear they didn't get the concepts. But if you do unit assessments, you would be able to assess those students much sooner and intervene.
But it seems to me that the school system is trying to cover up the shortcomings of what they're teaching our children. Phil.
Well, now, I think there's another thing that's at play here. We're robbing students by eliminating the final exams of the most important thing that you learn in school, which is preparation. The reality is that life is a lot of very big milestones like final exams. If you aren't encouraged to prepare and learn and push yourself, there's nothing that, whether we're talking about smaller class sizes or different ways of doing the assessment, is going to do to educate you.
Well, we'll have to wait and see how this plays out, because I want to go on to the next decision that the school board made. But obviously, over time, the decision to change, do away with final exams, will be continue to be controversial. Susan, the school board voted to close school on an Islamic holiday. A Muslim leader, Sqaib Ali, said institutional racism forces were beaten today. Is he correct?
Saqib is, I think, said things in the heat of the moment. I don't think he really believes that it's racist. What's interesting about having this Eid holiday off is they're not even certain of what the day is next year, and the teachers are going to have a work day so that Muslim students get to celebrate their holiday. That's a good thing. However, this decision has been made in the past based on the percentage of students who will be missing, whether it's Jewish, Christian, or whatever. And at the moment, it's a great idea, but the percentage is small.
2%, isn't it?
Well, it's a small percent, and now already there is a controversy. People are already. What about the Hindus or other religious sects? Should they get the day off too?
Phil, New York City was the first major school system to do this.
Yes.
Is this the wise decision, or are we just doing this for show reasons and opening up a can of worms that all these other religious minorities are going to want their own holiday? And you have to make it quick, I'm sorry.
Well, I've had a chance to work with religious issues, and while I like the idea of recognizing this, I don't think closing school entirely is the right thing to do, and I think we're in agreement on that.
I don't know if we're necessarily in agreement, but it is an issue that has gotten more and more heat in the last few years.
It's going to become even more controversial. As you said, Susan, if we're doing this for this small minority, then what's the next step? It's this very slippery slope.
Chinese New Year.
Chinese New Year. Okay. Well, after months of speculation whether there would even be a Republican candidate in the 2016 U.S. Senate race, Anne Arundel delegate and House Minority Leader Kathy Szeliga, announced that she is running to succeed retiring U.S. Senator Barbara Mikulski. Also considering getting in the race is Harford County Executive Barry Glassman, former Pentagon official Richard Douglas, and Navy veteran Anthony Sita. Rose Szeliga is described as one of the most powerful Republicans in the Senate. Even if I butcher her name, she's still a powerful lady. Does she have a chance of defeating the ultimate Democratic nominee?
I think so. I'm actually very excited about her entering the race. She's been very supportive of other candidates, including myself. I think she is a principled, strong leader and a businesswoman, so she understands the plight of businesses, and her family comes from a military family. Her father's a veteran, so I think she recognizes the fraud, waste, and abuse with the Veterans Administration. I think she's very committed to fighting that, and we all saw the article in the Post the other day about how the VA can't seem to get things done because Congress people are more about politics than actually solving the problem. I think she's the kind of leader that has a backbone, and she's very likable, and I think...
And where is she from? She's from Anne Arundel County?
Yes, and I think she is very familiar with the Baltimore area, so, and she's moved up very quickly.
All right, so Susan, you know, generally it's considered that in statewide elections, the Democratic Party has a lock on these kind of things. But we saw in the last election where a Republican governor was elected, particularly from a strong base in Anne Arundel County. So are we going to see a Republican having a real chance against the ultimate Democratic nominee?
Maryland, like many states, unfortunately, Democrats stay home except in presidential primaries. And the race next year is going to be a presidential year. So I'm quite confident the Democratic candidate will be the U.S. Senator. However, you know, I'm pleased to see that Republicans are entering the race. And they're going to have a heated primary just like the Democrats, it appears. I really do think, though, presidential year, Democrats get out. And I really get angry with Democrats when they do that. I mean, it's like we don't care off years.
So when Donna Edwards is the nominee, she's going to carry the day for your party.
I am supporting Chris Van Hollen, and I'm proud of it, and I'm confident Chris Van Hollen will be the nominee.
So now I gotta disagree with the assessment that Democrats will have a lock on it. The reality is, Kathy Shalega, just like Rose said, she's a fighter. She fights very hard.
But she has a
And
primary, though.
she has a
she's gonna
primary,
win the
but
primary.
one thing you're going to see is that a lot of Democrats, especially in places like Dundalk, are going to see, hey, this is somebody who's one of us. She fights hard. She cares about us much more so than playing politics.
Well, it'll be interesting to see if we have a competitive race and whether or not Maryland is turning to be a purple state instead of a blue state. When we come back from this short break, racial turmoil and tension at the University of Missouri. What caused it and what was the outcome? And who were the winners and the losers of the fourth Republican debate? Stay tuned after this short message. And welcome back. Back in the good old days of the 1960s, during the height of the Vietnam War, student protests on college campuses was a constant occurrence. Since then, and apart from some rather isolated instances, not so much. Now, however, the campuses are inflamed once again, and at the University of Missouri, 4 reported racial incidents, one that can be confirmed, prompted a hunger strike, a threatened football strike, and ultimately led to the resignation of an already embattled university president. At Yale, a lecturer dared question the wisdom of university officials issuing guidelines to adult students regarding potentially offensive costumes, and as a result, some student activists are pushing to remove her because they were threatened by a freedom of speech issue. Now, Governor Chris Christie of New Jersey, a Republican nominee for president, has entered the fray and has said that President Obama has created an atmosphere of lawlessness. Cynthia, what is going on here?
Well, first of all, I want to differentiate between the situations at Yale University
They are different.
and University of Missouri, which was a very serious situation. For over 6 months, 4 incidents took place. There was a swastika painted in a residence hall in April. Then there was an incident of the undergraduate student body president being called the N-word. Then there was a group of black collegians who were practicing a skit, and they were approached by a white student who yelled racial epithets at them. And then there was another instance with a swastika, and this time painted in a residence hall in human feces. Over this 6-month period, there were attempts to get the attention of university officials, including the president. The president was in a parade. The students approached him and he rebuffed them and ignored them and decided to take the slow track towards addressing their issues. And that is what happened at the University of Missouri. It was so egregious that the football team stepped in, black athletes. Their comrades joined them, as did the football coach. And
Cynthia,
finally,
there are knuckleheads at every university doing stupid things.
yes, but university officials and the college president need to make sure that students understand that this is not acceptable behavior, and this is not this is the university for them. And
Ferguson, Missouri is only a few miles down the road from this university also, and many of them, can remember that and come from there. That's the place where Ferguson students go to the university.
But see, first of all, Ferguson is halfway across the state from there, number one. Number two, we've got to look at this a different way. Half of these issues, especially the swastika, was proven to not have actually happened. Number two, since when did
Which one?
The fecal matter swastika, that was proven not to be true. Nor was this
I'm not sure about
hunger
that.
strike student did not almost get run over by the university president as he alleged. But more importantly, students have to learn, just like we were talking about before, to prepare for life. In life, there will be knuckleheads. There'll be people that say bad things. You're not going to be sheltered from it. You shouldn't be at the university. And what's more, it's terrible that a university president capitulated. I went to school under a prominent Democrat, John Silver, who told the students, you will follow the rules. That's what should be said
But
right
this
now.
man is
Follow
not
the
an
rules.
educator. He's a businessman who got his way, and you don't deal with students that
He's
way.
the university
it is
president.
a growing experience
He's
at
the
a
university president.
Wait a
You
minute.
respect
as
the
one
authority.
who marched for women's rights while I was at the university, you have that right, and not to treat those people with respect. And leading Republican legislators said he was wrong. He had to
Including
go.
Including the governor of the state.
I wanna
Including
go
the
to
governor
those
of
now.
the state of Missouri.
Is there any law? I mean, and this deals with both campuses, Yale and Missouri. Is there any logic to these protests? Because from afar, some seem to be manufactured, and some also seem to be a matter of just oversensitivity on the part of the students.
And I do think that everybody has perceptions, and I think that's based on their individual experiences, which is their reality. So you have to acknowledge that some people do feel offended by whatever reason. But I do think a lot of these college campuses have gone too far in being PC. And for example, at Yale, I actually read that entire email that Erica Christakis wrote, and it was a very thoughtful, nuanced argument, and it was trying to get the kids to think about, do you want the world to be like this? And I don't understand if the kids don't understand. I can't comprehend the purpose of the email. I know Nicholas Christakis. He is a very prominent sociologist and physician, and I saw the video where he's actually talking to the students and trying to engage with them, and they're very disrespectful. So I feel like you can't, like Phil says, you can't let that run the university.
And I think we cannot compare Yale to what happened at the University of Missouri.
Two different things.
You're right. They may be
different
different things, but it seems, all right. Just on the University of Missouri, what is the student? What would you have had the president of the university do from after the first incident?
He should have sat down and talked to them, and he didn't. And it's my
Well, if
understanding.
you don't know who the perpetrator
No,
of
no,
this
no.
is,
Let me finish. In the process, these little blow-ups were happening across campus. It is my understanding that the president did not work with the students. He did not address those
But,
issues.
okay,
he
so
had
you
a
feel-
committee, and Cynthia is totally right. It was slow track. And because of the way everything is covered today by the media, you have to speed things up a little bit. And I'll say once again, he is not an educator. And I think
Susan, I've
he
had
lacks
people, wait a second, I had
sensitivity.
people tell me that I'm ugly. It made me feel bad. The president of the university is not going to sit down with me and say, you know, son,
Oh, don't
you feel
belittle
different.
the
No,
situation.
I'm
That is
belittling it because I don't
disgusting.
take it seriously, and it shouldn't be.
No, no,
The
but
students
the-
need to learn. That's why they're there.
No.
They can march, they can enjoy themselves, but they're there to learn. and that's it.
give me a-
But these incidents were about making black students feel like you do not belong here.
That's a
And
Loud
that is
and clear.
intolerable behavior. And that has to be, it has to be crystal clear from the administration, from the president on the way down, that this is not
I don't know how
happening
many
on our
black
campus.
students are at the University of Missouri, but I assume the University of Missouri is a large college, just like the University of Maryland is.
35,000 students.
35,000 students. And you're saying that a few incidents, one or two incidents, are going to make all of the students feel like they're not welcome there?
It's amplified. If it's symbolic. If you're a black student on the campus of the University of Missouri, and these 4 incidents occur, and there are other incidents that probably were not reported, that kind of information spreads across the campus, and you have
I
to
want to
be
finish up with you, Susan.
conservative at a Northeastern school. I never felt
I want
welcome.
to finish the segment up with this question to you. At Yale, it appeared that there was a lack of tolerance for free speech on behalf of the protesters, that the protesters would not allow a counter argument. Isn't that a danger, Susan?
I think there is. We all have a right to free speech, but in our free speech, we have to be sensitive to the people around us. And I think that, for instance, what Donald Trump is saying now, some of his things are not sensitive to people. And I think we've come to the age where we have to be sensitive.
Well, Yale's a situation where they are sensitive, and yet this still happens because people blow it out of proportion and act offended when there really shouldn't be a basis for
And
that.
people were talking at each other instead of with each other.
All right. So
And that's the problem.
I think I'm more concerned about the Yale situation than I am the University of Missouri. I think the University of Missouri probably had more substance and basis to it. But the university, at Yale, it seems that there is a lack of tolerance on the part of the left to free speech. I think that's a danger.
That's disturbing.
That is going to affect all the campuses.
More to come on this.
More to come. Absolutely, there will be a lot more to come. All right, the fourth primary Republican debate in the primary season was held this week in Wisconsin, and all voters now seem to be coalescing around any one candidate, or are they? We'll start with Phil.
I don't think they're coalescing around any one candidate. It still is a very wide open field, and it's going to continue to be for some time because we do have so many great candidates on the Republican side that are running. I do think Marco Rubio and Chris Christie did distinguish themselves in their respective debates.
All right, so Rose, we still have the outsiders, Donald Trump and Dr. Ben Carson, leading in the polls. Is that going to hold up?
Well, pundits haven't been able to predict that. I think a lot of people thought that it wasn't going to hold up.
What
but
do you think? You're
I
the
think
pundit tonight.
I think it's going to go on for a little bit longer. I think there's a great deal of resentment out there among the populace about politicians and feeling fed up with people that break promises and don't do what they say they're going to do. So I think it's going to go on for a little bit longer.
All right, Cynthia, last night Donald Trump was in Iowa, and he said some rather inflammatory remarks about his opponents in the race, and
about the people of Iowa.
And the people of Iowa. Is that going to catch up to him?
I don't know. I saw it on my Twitter feed today. I don't know how widely it will be distributed. If I were an Iowa Republican, I would be incredibly insulted by his attitude. I don't know. Sometimes this Ben Carson rise and the Donald Trump rise defies human logic. I don't understand it.
So you think Mitt Romney should run? Is that what you're saying?
No, I don't think Mitt Romney should run.
Susan, do you share the incredulity that we all have over the length and breadth of this candidacy?
I think that Ben Carson will soon be falling down. Donald Trump, though, does blow my mind. Two things. When he talked about Dwight Eisenhower getting rid of millions of wetbacks under his plan, he was wrong. Dwight Eisenhower deported 250,000 illegal immigrants. He said millions. Then today, something interesting happened. Donald Trump was the first candidate to get his 5,000 signatures into the state of Virginia. That's no mean feat because it's very complicated, X number of candidates or names from each congressional district. And it shows he's got some credibility and he is more organized than what some people would like to think. He's the one who's not going away.
Susan, you have the last word. When we come back, parting shots.
Yeah.
And now with parting shots, Rose Lee.
I wanted to say that Montgomery County should privatize liquor stores and have restaurants sell the liquor directly, and I stand with Bill Frick on that. And I also wanted to wish everybody a happy Diwali.
Thank you. Cynthia Rubenstein, your parting shot.
Okay, this is schools related, and I want to acknowledge the Prince George's County Public Schools, where 41 schools are integrating the arts into the classroom to help children learn math using the arts and using the arts to learn science, and studies have shown that integrating the arts into the classroom can help students learn subjects better, deeper, more creatively, and stuff sticks.
Thank you, Cynthia. Susan Heltemes, your parting shot.
This week, the Supreme Court decided to take the Texas abortion law under consideration and will be ruling sometime in the spring. This Texas law said that doctors who performed abortions the facilities had to have ambulatory care regulation, follow those, and the doctors had to have admitting rights in hospitals nearby. This ruling is going to look at the reasons behind it, and the decision is going to affect laws that are cropping up all across the nation.
Thank you, Susan. Now, Phil Bell, you get to wrap this up, but before we do, I want to congratulate your New York Mets on having such a fantastic season, even at the expense of the Washington Nationals.
My
Well,
beloved
thank you,
Washington
Casey.
Nationals.
That's what I was going to mention is October fades into our memory. It was just such a great thing to see. That strong, scrappy team work so hard, and the brotherhood of all the Mets fans who just kind of walk up to you and nod with their Mets hats all over the place. So it was a great year. Looking forward to 16.
Thank you, Phil.
So
it
am
almost
I.
makes me.
My
It
Nats are gonna
hurts me
beat
to
your
say
Nats,
this.
your Mets.
All right, panel. Thank you. This was a great discussion. There were some tough topics tonight. I don't want to thank you for thinking and giving thoughtful answers to all of the topics that we discussed tonight. And thank you, audience, for tuning in to Montgomery County's hardest-hitting political talk show. And don't forget, you can follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, and re-watch us. Yes, you can watch us all the time on YouTube. For 21 This Week, I'm Casey Aiken.